now rocking with TDF everything. Spoiled rotten.
Spoiler alert.
Welcome and welcome back, everybody.
Hey.
It's me, Daniel.
And this is Ben.
And today we are about to talk about the Tales of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. This franchise has... The names are too long. I have to say that right away. Like, I don't like how long this is.
But, I agree, but I think that's like... They're just like, hey, let's just double down on how long this is, because Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles in itselip is such a long name, and then so it got shortened to TMNT, and then it's funny. I personally think it's funny. It is too long, but I think it's funny.
Yes. Well, yeah, it is a... I guess it felt like 2 seasons, but still, it is a season of TV.
I completely agree with you on that.
And I don't say this as a negative. It's not them at school. I really thought like, oh yeah, we'll just do them at school, in between movies or things. But like, we get to see them just deal with the aftermath of the movie, which was fun to watch. But I was like, oh shit, like they didn't follow through on the school thing. They just were like, no, we just have more story to tell.
Right. Was that the original? Because I don't know anything about this show. You put it on my radar because like, hey, let's do this, and I'm like, wait, there's a season for that? I didn't even know. And you know, when I'm so happy with it because it's so well done. It feels like 2 seasons, like you said, but it was just like I didn't know what they originally pitched everyone to be like, hey, was this supposed to be like, hey, this is the Turtles in the classroom and all that kind of stuff.
I think people made inferences based on what was said, but I wouldn't be able to point to like a thing where it's like, no, this is where they specifically said it's going to be them in high school. I just read things that I'm assuming also made the same inferences I did, which was like, oh yeah, like it makes sense to be like, the movies are the big things, and then we can have them at school during the TV show.
Sure, yeah. I mean, that kind of like a Harry Potter book or something like that. It's like, yeah, it brings us all throughout the school year, and then Voldemort only does this stuff at the end. That's not this at all.
That's not this. No, the villains reference the fact that they're in school, but they did not wait for them to be done the school year,
which is so much more realistic. And so much more fun to see how they're actually struggling with school stuff and the superhero stuff at the same time too. There wasn't that much school stuff that they're struggling with, but like the first,
I think it was just people being like, hey, didn't you say you were going to school? Which I don't know if that's a reference to people assuming that this was going to be about them in school.
Right. But the idea that they're like, okay, the first episode is them on the way to, I mean, the first half of the season is them on the way to a party.
Yeah.
Which I would assume is with their school peers and all that kind of stuff. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah, they're going to classes in the background. It's not the focus. It's still them being teenagers, which is the primary focus, which is what I really appreciate. Yeah. Again, from the show, from the movie, they brought the same energy to the show, and I'm like, this is great. This is really, really great. There's a lot of magic here. I don't think the magic is the same because I think a lot of the reason is because for both halves of the season, they were very obsessed with like, this is Donatello's episode, this is Leonardo's episode, and like really having those spotlights. To me, I think that did a disservice because the goal of both half of those seasons was like, okay, yeah, we get it. We got to get them together again. They got to work as a team, which is great to see them work as a team with other characters. And how, you know, one of my biggest comments about the movie was like, man, they're all cousins. They're all living together now. What's the villain roster going to be like? And I'm like, oh, this is great that they're actually taking that event and making new villains. And I think that's really, really cool.
No, I think... in a summary of my thoughts, where the first half worked better for me because it was a more organic division of the Turtles, and there was it felt more like, yeah, we got to get back together.
Yep.
because, like you, I would rather see them work as a unit. I'm usually bummed when even just one of them's missing.
Mhm.
But yeah, I liked the villains in the second half better, I think. But I
Mhm.
felt, yeah, splitting them up again was like, oh, we're doing it again. We just did that this
It-
season. Like, why are we
mhm.
doing this again? So that full disclosure made me kind of tune out. I was kind of like, oh,
Yeah.
this again. While also acknowledging I really liked the three, like Mustang Sally, Lee the Eel, and
Hmm.
Goldfish. Is he calling himself
Goldfin?
Goldfish or
No,
Goldfin?
Goldfin.
Yeah, Goldfin. There we
And I
go.
like that joke. It's like, you watch a lot of James Bond movies, don't you?
I was like, yo, those are good.
Yes. Those are good. It's got
It's like,
some
yeah, those are
great
good.
jokes in here for sure.
I also
Uh,
think second half didn't work as well for me because they were so committed to the like RAF decoder of Splinter's
mhm.
voice. I was like, oh, like I understand the logistics of maybe Jackie Chan doesn't do TV shows. I can't think of a time he did. And I made
Sure.
the joke to you in text where I was like, he didn't even do it when his name was in the title.
Yeah.
So like, but I thought they had a good workaround, which is, oh, he's only going to speak in Vermin for his girlfriend. And I was like,
Yeah.
okay, then there you go. That's that. So then when they switch, I'm like, why are we watching him not speak? And then why can they translate him but not Scumbug? Because that
Hmm.
was like that's another part of it is that he's doing it for Scumbug, and then they don't translate Scumbug, and I was like, oh, okay,
Hmm. I thought the workaround for the first half of the season. I'm like, yeah, okay, this is kind of funny.
yes,
You're not going to get Jackie Chan, whether or not he's doing something or just like you said, doesn't do TV. I think he is doing something because there was like Instagram videos or like social media videos of him in Montreal doing a rap party or something like that. So I'm like, I guess maybe he's
oh, like, oh,
just
you say
shooting
maybe
another
he's busy, yeah,
project. Yeah.
yeah,
And I think the fact that he's like, okay, they built it in the story. He's like, oh, he's only speaking Vermin, and I like the fact that the turtles were like, yeah, it's kind of gross.
hmm,
I'm like, this is great. This is a great way of being like, it's still the same energy, same whatever, same silk, still the same character, but an elegant way of being like, yeah, he's not doing this. But the fact that he's like, okay, I'm only gonna speak Vermin to April while doing the interview, I'm like, that's weird.
yeah.
That's super
It was
weird.
straining when it was like, oh,
Mhm.
yeah. Anyway, I didn't think that was as successful as the first half.
I agree.
And it's only 12 episodes, and it, after the writer's strike, you'll never hear me complain about seasons being too long. If it means people got to work and feed the people they need to feed and pay the bills they need to be, then
Hmm.
great. I hope that is the case.
Hmm.
Something tells me it might not be, but I'm hoping that's the case. So
Yeah.
I'm glad. But it also feels like you've burnt two ideas now,
Yeah.
and that might not go well for them in the writing room next time.
It's
But
true.
I I'm glad that it was longer than 8 episodes.
Yep.
But it did feel kind of like, oh, we're doing it again on the second run.
Yeah, and if that's the way like season two is gonna go, I'm like, I don't why stop splitting the turtles apart. Like, really, I want, and I guess this is like, I don't know when the next movie is gonna come out because they hinted at Shredder in it. But to me, I'm like, yeah, Shredder is a good enough villain to keep them all four
Mm-hmm.
together to actually pose a threat, right? And I guess that's why it could be TV level. And I do like there are certain characters like certain turtles like their episodes work way better than the other ones in my opinion because I feel like the TV show or traditionally in turtle media it's been like okay yeah it's Leo and Ralph that get like the spotlight for the majority of the movie and then Michelangelo and Donatello kind of get shafted or like oh yeah, you're here for the comic relief and you're here
Mm-hmm.
to provide the explanation to the audience when needed. So I liked when they get their own stuff, but for Leo and Raph, it's like you're not building off anything different, really. It's
Yeah,
the same thing.
I didn't pay attention during Leo's episode. If I'm being like
Hmm.
the first one, so
Yeah.
I was kind of like, what's happening? And I I must have looked away because I was like, wait, wasn't he just with his brothers? And like, then I was like, oh, the whole season's about this. Got it.
Mm-hmm.
They're gonna reveal later. But I just remember like, yeah, they're going to a party. What the fuck is he doing? Not with them. I was like,
Yeah.
I don't know. That's on me. I had a weird viewing experience of this season, but maybe that's why I didn't really care for the first Leo episode because I was locked in for the Raph, Michelangelo, and Donatello ones of the first half. I thought those were really strong for me.
I think
because all the episodes are like the turtles processing like their insecurities based on how they think their brothers act, but also how their brothers see them.
Yes.
And so you get time to still technically see them together, or at least have a presence with the main character for that episode, but you also get time for them to think about like how they fit in, and I appreciated that the first time around.
And I think like I can't remember whose episode. I think this was Ralph. That he goes like, "You were with me, and you were with me," and I think like that's his strong suit is like that like from a writing standpoint is the idea that Ralph always thinks he is held back by the turtles and all that kind of stuff, and he's trying to be too serious. He does a lot of emotional processing, but then my expectation now is like, what are you going to do with the character going forward? Is he going to be a team player all the time, or is he still going to be a source of conflict with Leo?
Showed, like he still can be annoyed by them, which makes sense. He's a teenager in a house with more than just his three brothers and his dad now.
So
he's going to be annoyed. There's going to be times where he has to break out and do his own thing. I think they're safe in that respect. But as you said, I do like that during the movie, he was just like, I just can't be around you guys. Like, you're suffocating me. And this show, the movie obviously, but this show kind of doubled down for him being like, I genuinely am like happy to see you again. I'm glad that we can work together as opposed to apart.
Yeah, it's I like that element there. But Leo's episodes I do think are the weakest because Leo traditionally, to me, is tethered together with Splinter, and with Splinter speaking Vermin to be like, it's not going to work quite so well, right?
Yeah, I mean they gave him April this time around.
Sure,
but I wasn't really. As I said, I can't even speak on the the Leo stuff. I was not paying attention really.
Yeah, the Leo stuff
like a daze to me.
Yeah, the Leo stuff with April to me is just like it's a little bit weaker because he's obviously trying to have a romantic angle there with April. So to me it's not him processing his insecurities, it's him still being like, hey, I need to be a leader, but how do I do that? Or I guess it is processing an insecurity to a degree, but not in the superhero. Yes, not in the whole superhero aspect of everything.
Yeah, so the first half we haven't really said is about Bishop, who was during their fight with Superfly, her life's work was destroyed, and she was doing that like. I feel like the show doesn't give you exactly what happened, but so you think like, oh, did they kill her sister? That because you know that she cares about her sister. She's got her sister in pictures, and then you're like, no, the sister was already dead, but it's still like you destroyed that work, which was in honor of the sister. So you kind of killed the sister again. So you are like, yep, I get it. She fucking hates them. And this is where I was like, this is clearly for kids, because immediately that character that's voiced by Pete Davidson, I think his name's Rod, like they keep showing you like, oh, the Mechazoids are going to try and kill him because they have to destroy mutants. And I'm like, oh, it's because he's got two colored eyes. And X-Men First Class taught me that means he is technically a mutant.
Yeah.
But they keep it going, and I'm like, I'm not going to say I'm too smart for the show. I'm just going to acknowledge this clearly isn't meant for adults solely. They do need to give kids a bit of a curve. So I can accept that, but I was just kind of like, it's because he's a mutant. Just say it. Just say it's because he's a mutant. They get there, but it was just like, yeah, okay, yeah, come on, do it. Just say it already. Why hasn't everyone figured this out yet?
Yeah. I mean, I just like the whole character that Pete Davidson plays, underachieving, lazy rich kid. It's hilarious to me.
After the Michelangelo episode, I was like, who is that? That sounds so familiar. And then I'm like, oh, it's Pete Davidson. And I can't tell if it's just because it was in my head, but I'm like, He's doing the like I'm a white guy who likes hip hop thing so much after the Michelangelo episode. Like in the Michelangelo episode, I'm like, oh, he was playing a character, and then it just kind of like kept drifting into like, yeah, this is how Pete Davidson talks, and I was like, am I just overthinking this, or did he record these in a way where he was like, maybe he ended on the Michelangelo episode in terms of him recording, and everything before that was them trying to get him to actually play a character.
Right. I just naturally saw it as like, okay, we were introduced to this character when he was predominantly in the first part of the first few episodes, predominantly under the wing of his dad. And being like, yeah, of course you're gonna talk differently with your dad around than when you're not. But the whole idea of him being like, all right, the dad being like, I'm gonna invest in your company. I'm gonna bankroll you as long as you take my son and make him do work and all that kind of stuff. I was like, yeah, that's that tracks. He's like, what do you think? Are you interested in this? Like, and he's like, yeah, I'll make you a job. You do this. And I do like the fact that he's like, the snacks suck, and then Bishop's like, the job's
but that's your job.
That's
you're in
job.
charge of the snacks.
That's literally the only job that you have is like to get the snacks.
I also like that he was like, make me a mutant, and I genuinely did not know how Michelangelo was gonna get around that, because he's like, yeah, I'm definitely gonna do it. I'm like, okay, so he's not gonna do it, but how is he gonna get around this?
Yeah.
And again, it's like a kid show, because it was just like, oh, he had 2 vials on it. Okay, so great.
Yeah.
I don't know how that switch happened, but he doesn't. I like that he's like, oh, maybe it takes an hour to change you. It was just funny. He's like, I'm so committed to you not being a mutant. And he says beforehand why it's a bad idea. And I'm like, see, if I were Rod, that would be enough to make me be like, oh, I shouldn't do it. This being who is a mutant should know better. Like, you shouldn't do this. But anyway, we get Pete the Pigeon out of it, which I feel like is a very funny payoff in the second half.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
When he talks, he's like, I just needed some time. And they're like, you could have been doing this the whole time. He's like, I just needed time. I'm sorry.
Yeah. That is played by McLovin.
Yes,
by the way.
McLovin.
Christopher Mintz-Plasse. I'm like,
I was like,
forever
what a waste
McLovin.
to get Christopher Mintz-Plasse for this squawking thing. And then when he talks, I'm like, got it. I see.
Yeah.
I see.
I mean, it completely tracks. It completely makes sense that he wouldn't talk until that point. It's just like, yeah, he just turned into a mutant. Like, you can't. I don't know if they're all verbal right off the bat, but I'm
I'm not saying it doesn't make sense that he didn't talk right away. I was just like,
what a waste.
I was not sure why you would get someone like that for the TV show to don't just do that. It'd be one thing if it was a movie where they're like, I don't know, like putting him in here makes certain investors want to put more money in.
Sure.
But for a TV show, I'm like, I feel like you already have the money, so you don't need to. And then, obviously, I realized they had a long-term plan for him. But you're right. I would believe that they need some time to acclimate to speaking English. Like they can't just be able to do that right away.
Yeah.
So yeah, basically, it's just the Bishop thing, and they make or Donatello makes Metalhead. Like you, I liked the Michelangelo and Donatello episodes the most, I think. I especially liked in Michelangelo's episodes, they showed him fighting a lot more.
Yes.
And again, it's just in my head reading The Last Ronin, I'm like, see, like they're setting up that he could be the last Ronin. But also just like he's not just jokes, even though that's what he's struggling with. It's clearly showing like you can take care of yourself as well.
I do like that I like that. Like he's just still obsessed with improv, and he's like, hey,
are you making fun of me right now?
Yeah. It's so good.
Oh yeah, I was a bit frustrated, not in a way of like, oh, this is bad, this is a bad show, but I was frustrated with him in the second half when he kept making fun of Lee the Eel. I was like, come on, guy. Like I felt bad for her. Like she has so many moments of being genuinely like touched if she thinks someone likes them, or when she's talking to Goldfin and he's like, yeah, like we can have whatever we want, and she's like, well, we wanted was to be with you. Like that's the thing. So I just felt bad for her whenever Michelangelo made fun of her. But in the first one, yeah, like how Rod had to keep being like, are you doing a bit again? Like, what are we doing here? Well, stop doing bits. And that like Michelangelo had to keep being like, why is everyone looking at me like I'm gonna have a plan? I'm not the leader. That's Leo's thing. And then he goes through all the turtles, and Rod's like, So you're the lame one? Like, oh, that sucks.
I mean, it was a little bit annoying because I'm like, yeah, your whole thing, Mikey, is that you're the more empathetic, sympathetic one. Stop making fun of Lee right now. That's
It
not
was funny
cool.
because I didn't notice that. I didn't notice until he laughed. I was like, "Oh, I see what he thinks is funny." Because I was just
Right.
like, "Why is he laughing at Lee the eel?" But he's like, "That's just the same thing backwards." I was like, "Right, yeah, that is funny, I guess."
That is kind of funny. But
Or
yeah.
when she was like, "I don't know, I'm not gonna eat you, but like probably bite you or something." When he said, "Oh, then I'll just stand still," I was like, "Is he serious?" He got me. I was genuinely like, "Oh, I guess." He's just elevated to the point of being like, well, that's not going to hurt that much. Sure, I'll stay. And then she's like, wait, are you being serious? He's like, no. I was like, Mikey, stop fucking with her.
So I really like Mikey, but yeah, that last episode, that was just spotlight on him. I'm like, yeah, it's a bit much. Largely because I'm like, I was so distracted and I didn't realize my player just looped it on for like two, three times, and I'm like, oh crap, yeah, I'm really letting these jokes just really land and sink in and all that kind of stuff. But it was a fun episode. I did like to have the, even though in the latter half it was focused on them, but still got the shine the spotlight on the East River Three.
Mm-hmm.
The Lee the Eel, like you said, Mustang Sally, who I really like, and Goldfin.
Yeah, Danny Trejo's Mustang Sally and Timothy Oliphant is Goldfin.
Yep.
And I just like Timothy Oliphant, so I was like, "Yep, I'm on board."
Yeah,
And
Elephant
when
is
he was
really
like
great.
fighting all of them on the yacht, I was like, "Holy shit!" Like
He's
Goldfin's
got
got skills.
yeah, like
I
that fighting thing was just like this is really effectively well done.
there was a couple times where I was like, I'm kind of rooting for them. Like they put so much effort in. It'd be a shame if they didn't get what they wanted. Like
Mhm.
especially when they're stealing the pearl. I was kind of like,
Mhm.
think. I mean, I know they're gonna get away with it, or else nothing's gonna happen. But I was still like, come on, Goldfin, you can do it.
Yeah. 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 It's good. It's a good series, and like you said, it is very clearly for kids. And I'm just like constantly impressed by how they redo a lot of Ninja Turtles lore to make them allies now at this point in time. You're right. Like in the movies, like, oh yeah, they're all like cousins now.
Hmm.
Now they had Metalhead. And I'm like, they brought in Metalhead in the first half of the season, and I'm like, this is great. Like,
Hmm.
how they're like, oh no, Metalhead, and it's like, well, I guess yeah, he'll be the same when we turn him back on. It's not that big a deal.
That was great. And he's like, I guess we could just turn him back on. This is fine.
It's really good, but it's just like, I think this show does a very good job of actually building out those villains, those characters, and really go somewhere different with it, as opposed to being like, yeah, this is Leatherhead, this is Metalhead, this is Ray
I
Fillet.
loved the Leatherhead. Well, I liked Wingnut and Leatherhead. Like the who are they with on that one? Is that
That is
Donatello?
the Donatello episode.
So that's the second half Donatello one.
Yes.
So like Leatherhead kind of closes out the first arc when she's like on the phone and like, oh yeah, cool, everything worked out. And I'm like, okay, again, why would we get Roseburn just for that? But then she has a whole thing later. But I loved when it was like Wingnut is just afraid of the dark, and he's like, again, isn't this like your thing? Like, shouldn't you be fine with this? But yeah, like they got to go deeper with Wingnut and like see what she cares about, and that she's so happy that she gets to be friends, like or make new friends because obviously she had a bigger group of friends than the turtles did initially, but making
Mhm.
new friends would probably be a big deal for her.
Mhm.
So I liked that, but I also she's like, yeah, like I don't know, like Leatherhead went away and we never saw her, and then they just assume that these gators are Leatherhead.
Yeah.
And it's like they're trying all this stuff, and I was like, at first I was like, wow, Donatello's really like hitting this being he thinks is his cousin. Like this is
Mhm.
fucked, kind of. But then it
Yeah.
all worked out, and Leatherhead shows up like, wait, so what happened? She's like, oh yeah, I don't know, but and then she uses her skills to put them on their backs later, though, and Donatello's like, why wouldn't you share that earlier? She's like, oh yeah, you just gotta turn it on the back. That'll knock them out. It's fine.
Yeah, all the blood rushes that are away from their head and it just knocks them out. And I'm like, the fact that Rose Byron is doing such an over the top Aussie accent as Leatherhead is so good to me. But then the idea that earlier on in the episode they're like, yeah, she's a
Oh, they make fun of
um
her accent is hilarious.
no, not only that, it's like she's an alligator and an Australian alligator in New York. Yeah, I guess she has to have a thing,
Yeah.
implying that none of those things actually matter. It's so good. Man, it's really, really funny. I like this. I like it a lot. And just like every time I see Ray Fillet, I'm cracking up
Yeah, I'm
because
not
I'm
a
like,
fan.
I love it. I just
No.
love the fact
I
that he's
didn't
just
realize
gonna
he only
say
did the two
everything.
things,
Yeah.
like say things that rhyme with fillet. I didn't realize that, or Ray, I guess.
Mhm.
I did not understand that in the. I thought he talked in the first movie. Like I feel like he does say like something where he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry." Like I think he says something, but in the show they're like, "Oh, he only can say things that rhyme with Ray."
So I do think that he does talk, but at the end but he prefers to sing his name. And I think that's the thing that's really, really funny to me is just
Yeah, I'm also
he
just not a
prefers
fan
to do
of
it.
Post Malone. Not
Well, yeah, yeah, they did
just,
get Post Malone back in this one.
and just not with it. So
Fair
the
enough.
that has nothing to do with his music. It has everything to do with his doing what a lot of white people do, which was try on blackness to get success and then turn around and completely shit on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, not really. I wasn't really like on board when I saw that in the trailers. Like, oh, it's gonna be Ray. It's gonna be Post Malone doing Ray Fillet. And then when he came back in the show, I was like, nah, no, thank you.
Yeah. I mean, I get it. I get it. Um I did like Genghis Frog
Yeah,
in this
I was
again.
disappointed that Hannibal Buress didn't come back for that, but
Same.
he's very funny in this show. It
He
is the guy
is.
who does the voice of Bishop in X-Men '97, though.
Yeah, Ahmad Jackson.
Yeah, but yeah, I like I like that. Is it that Michelangelo thinks that he has a secret love thing with the cat?
No, he just like he doesn't think he has a secret thing. He just wants to eat the cat or something like
No,
that.
I'm
And
saying
he's like, "Don't do
Michelangelo's
that."
thought. Like I thought that he was like, oh, I get it. You've got like a secret sexual tension going on, or was he
Oh
talking
no,
about
no,
the
that was between
owners?
the shop owners.
Okay, got it. Okay.
And I just love that episode because I'm like, he Michelangelo is so incredibly slow. It's like I'm just like, yeah, the audience got that already.
Hmm.
And he's like, oh, I'm like, that's just so funny to me. I was like,
I
I get it. There's
also
this unspoken tension going on between you two. And I'm like, this is so good.
I did like when the purple dragon leader was like, yeah, no, we know your brother, but did he tell you he stole my bike? And he's like, oh, that thing? Yeah, it's blown up.
Yeah.
That's too bad.
It's really good. It's really good. I also like the like as much as I didn't care about the Raphael episodes, his bond with Han, that new character of the Purple Dragons,
The
actually
one
I
who
think
loves
was
chickens.
the one that likes chickens and all that kind of stuff. I did really, really like that bond that they had together, and the fact that they work together as a team. They're, they're like, yeah, nobody, only sees us as this, and we're the muscle and all this kind of stuff. And they got to be vulnerable with each other, and I think that was really, really cool.
Yeah, no,
Uh,
I like. I mean, I'm not trying to convince you. I liked the Raphael one because
mhm.
mostly because of the Han thing of him being like,
Yes.
what? You don't just give in to like being able to beat people up. Like people even want you to do it, and so it was a
Mhm.
nice exchange for the two of them.
Mhm.
I mean, I do like that it was Raphael being like, yeah, like maybe I should try something other than violence. So he tries the whole like, let me distract them with jokes and stuff, like which
Mhm.
was good. But it is funny that later on, when they have to fight the Mechazoids, he's like, "Why isn't violence working?" Or maybe
I
that's
do like that a lot.
I just like the line. Maybe that happens chronologically
Yeah.
earlier than his
Yeah.
realization. But it is
And
just funny that I thought they did a great job in the first movie of being like, no, the violence is his therapy. Like that's his release. And so
Mhm.
coming up against something where he can't get the release is very funny to me.
It's very, very funny. And I also like the line that he has. I think it's either before or like one of the Raphael episodes where he's like, wait, is anger getting in the way of teamwork? And I'm like, yes, of course it is. It's he's like realizing that so late. I'm like, this is so funny to me. And it makes me really appreciate like kids shows to this degree, right? Because like I famously in the past have been like, I don't care about anything that's for teenagers and all that. I'm like, no, there's so many different layers of like watching a young character discover it for the first time. That's something that's so incredibly obvious, but they're
Hmm.
having like the biggest enlightenment. I'm like, that's really funny. It's just so well done. And I think this show does it better than the other shows that I've taken a look at in this realm of like, this is for kids. And I'm like, no, I this is good. This has got something to it too. I like it.
Um, I also liked. I was gonna say something about Raphael, but I don't remember now. So we should just move on. I can't remember what I was gonna say. But yeah, I agree with you that this is I would say, overall successful show where I can see more plainly than other times, like how this would be effective for kids,
Mhm.
while still not be feeling too dumbed down. Yeah, I think we both acknowledge instances where, as adults, we can be like, yeah, I knew that was the point, but it would still be fun for someone who's not thinking like that to get those moments of realization.
Yeah, yeah. Like I can only imagine like if I was like a child rearing person that like, oh, this is something I would genuinely like to watch together with a child. You know what I mean? It's just like, you got there. Watching them realize,
Hmm.
all this kind of stuff would be really, really fun. And obviously you having that to look forward to in multiple stages of your little one's life, it would be really, really cool. I think that is a really cool thing that these kind of shows do bring to that. And it makes me think back to like my childhood. I'm like, oh yeah, I guess that's why my dad wanted to watch Disney movies so much.
Hmm.
Later on, found out, oh, it's because he was stoned a lot of the time. But
Oh, okay.
yeah, I'm like, all right, that still tracks. It's the idea of it. I'm like, that's why he found that bit so funny.
Right? Yeah, that you'd be like, it's not that funny.
It's not that funny, Dad. Just laughing his ass off while eating popcorn. Good times. Good times. But yeah,
Oh, that's what I
this
was gonna say. The
yeah.
So before we meet the East River Three, we meet these
Mhm.
like beings that can only speak in commercials, like
Yes.
and so like there's the construction worker that's just drilling, and it's like really off-putting because it seems like he's being mind controlled, and he's just like, they said they were gonna give me $1 million, but then when I met them, I was like, how did they convey that to you? Because that seems like a very direct, we are going to give you this, but they only speak in quotes from commercials. So and they never repeat that saying. So
Mhm.
what were they saying to you?
Yeah.
But I liked that group of people, and how like the East River Three kind of, they're not their kids, but they are kind of like, yeah, like the kids are here. Whatever, we gotta figure out something for them to do.
Right. The anemones is what
Hmm.
they are. That's all they are introduced as. Yeah, that was really like because the East River Three's plan is actually quite good. Like the fact that they're distracting all this kind of stuff, and then their plan ultimately is to steal the pearl.
Yeah,
And even Donatello goes like, "Hey, that's actually a really good
right.
plan."
Because everyone's like, oh, they're gonna flood the city, and they're
Mhm.
like, we just want this pearl thing.
We
Like
just
we're,
want the pearl. It's fun. It's a fun thing.
but I guess
Yeah.
obviously we learned that Lee the Eel also thought they were gonna be doing that plan.
Yeah. Yeah. And I like again that episode of like, wait, are you making fun of me right now? I just want to go to the museums. Like, no, I think the museum's a great place. Like it's so cool. Have you ever seen like God, what is that? Van Gogh's Starry Night in person? It's life-changing. And then they have that moment. It's like, wait, what are you doing? It's so good.
Yeah,
Oh man. It's
I was a
it's
big Lee the Eel fan.
mhm, mhm. I think Mustang Sally is really good too. I really
Hmm.
liked Mustang Sally. Like you're
I like all
absolutely
three of them.
right.
Yeah.
I completely agree that Goldfish, like the villain in the second half, was way way better than the first half. And I'm okay with that. Like the idea that there's better progression,
Hmm.
awesome. And moving away from the turtles and onto the villains at that point is it's really really strong. Writing and all that kind of stuff. I just didn't like the fact that they used the device of like we got to split them up each time
I also, yeah,
each half of the episode, each half of the season.
and it wasn't like a forced thing. It was just like, oh, you go here, you go here, and I did not like. I'm not saying it's not explained, but I was just why is this happening this way? Like we're
Hmm.
listening to Splinter tell the story. Like why do we have to do this? I don't get it.
Hmm.
So that was just didn't work for me. But like you said, I enjoyed the East River Three as villains more.
Hmm.
But one thing I did like about Bishop is that she genuinely wanted to help, and it was Donatello that was like, "Well, there's just one word in your coding that fucked up, but you said destroy." And I like that. They're like, just shut up. No one cares. Like, you have the win. You saved everybody. No one cares about this.
I really did like that. Yeah, it's just like shut up. I'm like, he never gets a spotlight. He never gets to do anything that he wants.
And I was like, I don't even think he's being annoying. Like he's like, this is important. Like, but I think that's what made it more than just a kid show, because it was like they didn't get out the full thought. Like you just have to, like, yeah, I understand. It is one where they let you connect the dots yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fun. Like, and this is why my critique of the show is like, it would have been better if they were together a lot more, because they get those moments where it's like, I'm gonna shine right now, and the rest of them are like, shut up, they were being annoying and cringe right now. I'm like, this is so good. I think genuinely from the movie, like my favorite thing was how the chemistry between all four turtles was there.
They could improvise together.
Yeah, and not having that strength in the show, to me, hurt it just a little bit. Not terribly too much, but I feel like if the second half of the show, if they were all together and it was just like, yeah, they were doing something great, like that would have been so much better to me. Like I would have really liked it if they just kept them together in the second half. But in the first half, it was just like, all right, this is cool. This makes sense with the way they wrote it. The second half was just like, we got to do this again.
That is exactly what I felt. I was just like, oh no, not again.
Yeah.
But I think that's just, I'm not saying that to dismiss or diminish. I'm saying it to acknowledge that when I say it's just us, I'm saying that to acknowledge that some people might not value that over just time with any turtle. So
right.
I'm not saying, I guess I just wanted to make it clear. I don't think that because it didn't work for us means that it's objectively a bad choice to split them up. It just obviously didn't work for us.
Yeah, it's not a bad thing to ever say like, hey, this part of your show is great, I want more of it. You know what I mean? It's never a bad thing. It's not like their time apart was like really dragging in the mud or anything like that. Like we get why they're doing it, but at the same time, like I want them together more. It's really, really good. And the one thing that keeping them apart really, really does well, I think, is that they get to explore different animation styles even within the show. Like the idea that the Donatello episode, the first Donatello episode, is like you get like that 8-bit or 16-bit kind of video game
different
kind
ways
of animation.
Of, maybe not all, but Leo does the comic book thing. I feel like Raph does something where it's more, I don't know. I feel like all four of them must have a different way, but as you said, Donatello physical, like when you go into his mind, it's the 8-bit game thing. And Leo, you already know he's writing a comic book, so he does a comic book style, and I do feel like Raph had a way of doing it as well that was different. Maybe it was more anime,
but even then, like
that's what it was.
Donnie is the anime guy in the whole thing, right? He's just nerddom in its own right.
Because like him and Wingnut like are like, oh, you're talking about Akira, right?
Yeah.
And I like that. When they tried to give an example, and he's like, I mean, no, like Tetsuo dies, but sure, I get what you mean.
Yeah. I do think that is a strength, that if they're separating them, they actually did take a lot of creative liberties in that episode itself to be like, it's not just the same animation style, we're doing something completely different. It's really, really good in that sense.
Even though I don't like splitting them up, I think the first split up, like the first half, works because you're aware that they are trying to get back together, and there is a mystery around why they were split up.
Yes.
Like, how did they get here? So you feel like there's forward motion. Which is, I guess, why I thought like maybe this should have been 2 seasons, because then you'd be like, I guess this is just how they do this show does it, is like there's always going to be something that splits them up, and the season will be about them getting together. So to do it twice in one season just felt like, I mean, we did this already. And I just was less interested at that point. I thought like there was a good conclusion to the first one, especially, as I said, Raph being like, I'm actually happy to see you here. Or when Raph and Leo get together and he's like, oh, I thought I was the only one left. And Leo's like, wait, what? Why would you think you would be the only one who could survive?
I can fight. I can do that. I can take care of it. That was really good. But him just being like, I genuinely thought, and I'm like, okay, that's good. It's really, really funny. I like the fact that in the second one, they really got the team up aspect of it to be like, all right, this is. And I think I said this earlier in the podcast, but I like the fact that they're like, this is Ralph's episode, but we're gonna put him together with these cousins and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, okay, there's still a team up aspect going. It's just like, but I'm not getting enough of the cousins part of it that would really, really enhance and uplift that episode and make me care less about the fact that they split up the turtles again.
Yeah, I guess, yeah, if I were to give props to the second half, it is like making use of the large roster they set up in the first movie of being like, yeah, we're gonna see Genghis Toad and Wingnut and Leatherhead. I guess Scumbug was there a bunch as well.
Yeah,
so that's good.
Yeah,
I still was kind of like, I don't know what we're doing with Splinter. Like, I feel like we had a safe way out, and then we wrote ourselves into some issues here.
It was weird. I did like the fact that they're like, stop doing Batman.
Yeah, Leo was like, no, I am Batman.
I am Batman. And then and then Ralph does his thing too. It's like, I'm Batman. I'm like, this is great. See, this is why I love these teenagers. They're actually teenagers, and they're idolizing their fictional characters, and they're trying to put that into their own personality. I'm like, yeah, that's great. That's hilarious to me. It gets a lot of really good jokes in. It's so funny.
Another thing I think worked is in the movie, I was just like, I just wish Donatello and Michelangelo's voice actors switched. I just see Michelangelo as like the younger one, and so to have the squeaky voiced one be Donatello and not Michelangelo, it always made me be like, come on, it's not driving for me. But since we had a whole episode with just Michelangelo, I was like, yeah, I've eased into this now. Like, it gave me time to not hear him in contrast with his brother and just be like, this is Michelangelo's voice.
Right. Yeah.
So I got to give the show props for that too.
Yeah, they do a lot of good. They really, really do a lot of good. Like, it's really well done. It's really well produced. It is, at the end of the day, very much for kids, but that doesn't hold me back from enjoying any of it. It's just like one of those things, like you said, yeah, we know he's immune, we know, but that's like adult level knowledge, so to speak, right?
And I got it from a comic book movie. It's not like I knew that ahead of time from being actually smart. I was just like, nah, I remember a comic book movie.
Yeah.
Which
that's
anybody
fair.
Could do.
So yeah,
that did.
Yeah. For me, I'm just like, no, biology is one of my favorite things, and just like, you know, in knowing like that is a mutation. Mutants exist, but like obviously without superpowers,
not to the extent that the show was time. But yes. But I like that the show was like, well, no, we're not just counting mutants as in Ninja Turtles. Like, anybody who has a mutation can get it.
Yeah.
So that was good.
Absolutely. But it's really, really well done. Like, the villains were better in the second half. Still liked the villain in the first half. Bishop, I think to me was really, really good.
And you do have the like upsetting thing of being like, well, she's being recruited by another bad guy. So
yes,
all that work is not really. And I'm not saying that's bad. I was just like, oh shit, no! Like, we thought we saved you, but you're not saved.
Yeah, the Earth Protection Force is what she gets recruited by. Yeah, it's just like, all right, cool. We're gonna see her again, maybe in the movie, maybe in season 2. Yeah. We don't know, but we're probably gonna see her again.
Just another big, at least for voice acting, name, Alana Eubank. So I feel like she'll be back.
I mean, it makes a lot of sense in the sense where it's like, okay, you now have a doctor in robotics that could set up other characters like was it Kang? God, what's the guy with the brain in the stomach? Krang, that's what it is, Krang. And then also builds out the Technodrome and all that kind of stuff. Because if the one thing in the past that like always it didn't make sense that like Shredder would be the one that has all that kind of stuff. It's just like, you're friggin' powerful.
Well, in the
ninja.
show, they're just working together and they're annoyed by each other. They're not actually like they're not on good terms, really. It's not like it is like the fighting for who's actually the boss here, and there's a lot of that. So like, it made sense to me. But yeah, he's trying to wield that power. They're trying to be like, we do what we do, man. I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't know what you think you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, because isn't the Technodrome just like the spaceship? Like, I don't think anyone needs to build it for Krang. He would have come from his planet with that, or his
Can't
dimension with that.
remember. That
Either way,
sounds
we've got a
right.
replacement for I think Baxter Stockman, who died at the beginning of the first movie. So I think Bishop plays that role as the scientist that could fuck them up at any point.
Yeah, and I think it's quite good. I really think they write. There's a lot of good writing in that when you take away what we traditionally know as the villains and now replace it with like, okay, we're doing new villains, we're doing new lore, we're doing all this kind of stuff. I'm big fan of what they're doing with this, because, and you can probably accuse them of this too, even though I'm like not sure that I want a Pigeon Pete action figure, but the idea of like in the past in the show, they were like, all right, keep pumping out villains so we can sell more toys. I don't think that that's what they're doing here. I think they're just like, no, let's write new villains. But at the same time, I'm like, capitalism seems to lurk its way into a lot of these creative things, and like if they were to sell toys or like trading cards or stuff like that, I'm like, I could see that happening too.
I mean,
but
I don't think it's if. They're definitely going to do that.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. Yeah. That's why they keep making more Pokemon.
I concern myself with, if I'm being honest. Like, I just know, like, yeah, these things aren't going to happen and look this good and have this much push if someone else is thinking, well, we'll only make money if people watch the show. Like, it's happening because they think they're going to make money elsewhere.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. If it's for kids, they're looking to sell a toy or something like that. Yeah, totally fair. They could have gone really overboard with it, but they're just like, no, we're gonna do that because no one's gonna do a Bishop. Well, actually, that's not true. People could do Bishop toys. Yeah, never mind. Capitalism wins. It always does.
Yeah,
but
yes,
it is. It is what it is. Still doesn't. It means that we still get a quality TV show, and I'm a big fan. I'm looking forward to more of this Ninja Turtles universe that they're building out right now. I think Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg are doing a great job with this kind of stuff.
Yeah, I don't know how much they had to do with this. And I don't remember. I feel like I saw Chris Yost as a name a bunch of times.
Christopher Yost and Alan Wan are the showrunners here.
Okay, then
I
just wanted to make sure they got a shout out because
but they are still executive producers, Rogen and Goldberg. But obviously, with everything they do, especially with getting the voice cast and all that kind of stuff together, it is very, very much, hey, Seth Rogen is friends with everyone in Hollywood. So,
yeah, this felt less like, oh, let's pull in favors from Seth Rogen's Rolodex, but definitely the movie was a bunch of favors from Seth Rogen's Rolodex.
Oh, for sure. Like getting Giancarlo Esposito is like, wait, what?
I was saying more like to do Paul Rudds and stuff like that.
Oh, right,
Ice Cube and stuff.
Yeah, that's good.
But yeah, it's a good show. I feel like this is going to be a short episode, but we didn't really have anything egregious to talk about.
No, there's nothing hugely bad about it, and that's what I really like. It's just a really good show.
I'll revisit it and be like, oh, I should have brought this up, but as I said, there was weird circumstances around how I got to watch this and when I got to watch it, so it was just like, I'm talking about mostly just having a kid and needing to fit that in, not like some weird Secret Service thing. Yeah, I was just like, I needed to get these in when I could, and so it hasn't stuck with me like other shows, but I liked what I saw. And
I will say though that I think like because it's made for children, I always look at it from a different lens and just to be like, hey, was it entertaining? And by far this thing was very, very entertaining to me. Like that's one of the biggest pushes that I have versus like if we were to do if we were to review The Dark Knight, I'm like, no. We're picking this thing apart, like bit by bit. We're picking this thing apart, but because it's this, I'm like, no, I get to just sit back, relax, celebrate it. And if something's glaringly bad, then I'm like, okay, come on, like what's going on here? But none of those things happened. It was just like, yeah, why are you breaking up the turtles again? Just keep them together this. But they get there, and
Yeah.
that's what matters. And when
I
they
guess-
are together, they shine. They really, really do.
I guess I really did not connect with the April and Splinter episode. I don't know what happened in it. I was kind of just like on my phone. I was just like, oh,
It's hard to
this is
connect
not-
with someone speaking vermin. I get that.
this is not interesting to me.
Mhm.
And I liked April in the movie, but I was just like, oh no, I don't like this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, if people like that episode and are upset we didn't comment on it, it's because I genuinely don't even know what happened in it.
Mm-hmm.
I think they meet Goldfin in it though. That's you brought up one thing, which was
Mhm.
the whole "Did you get your name from watching James Bond?" I do remember that, but
Yeah.
other than that, I don't know what happens in that episode.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I guess that means we'll rate this season of
Mhm.
television. I'll give it a 7.5. Maybe people think that's too low, but the second half really lost momentum for me, so I was kind of just
Sure.
like, yeah, I really like that first half, and there's elements of the second half.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm giving it an 8. I'm finding it was easier for me to really, really enjoy just because I'm doing this thing where I'm like, if it's a season of television, I'm only doing 2 to 3 episodes max at a time and not doing any more than that. It's been really allowing me to enjoy stuff a lot more rather than just like, and this was like dropped all at once, so I could have marathoned the whole thing.
Yeah, I did 2
But-
episodes a day.
Yeah, it's way more enjoyable. It lets everything sink in more. It gives me that ability to build. I'm looking forward to this because like I can definitely say that no one I know is going to be like, "Oh, I'm going to spoil this for you." I'm like, "No, don't do that. You're just ruining kids' life." It's just, why are you doing that? It's, and I publicly apologized when I was like back in the day being like, Dumbledore dies. Ruining that for
that's no
kids.
fun for people.
Yeah, that was no good. I was a jerk back then. I apologize for all those people. But yeah.
Or anyone who was going to be starting their Harry Potter journey.
Yep, that's true.
Sorry. Well, yeah, thank you very much for listening, everybody. If you want to hear other episodes, please go to tdfeverything.com/spoiledrotten or rate, review, subscribe, and share, follow, all that stuff on any podcast platform of your choice. We are at TDF Spoiled on Instagram, Twitter, and we're really lighting things up on Threads, so definitely catch us there. And our email is spoiledpodcast@gmail.com, so get in touch with us however you please, and we'll be back. Bye-bye.
Cheers.
This has been a TDF Everything production, brah.